to another episode of the Alma Ensemble Summer Interview Series. We've got Sarah Wardle-Jones with us.
Hi.
And Erica Sipes.
Hello.
And I'm Michelle Smith-Johnson. We are the co-founders of the Alma Ensemble, a chamber music collective based in Roanoke, Virginia. So coming to us today from Austin, Texas, we're thrilled to have flutist, teacher, entrepreneur, and Instagram star, Jolene Madewell. Jolene, welcome. How are you?
Hi, thank you. I'm good.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you on the show today because I was first introduced to you on Instagram. I followed your account for a while. It's very beautiful and inspiring. And I thought we could just start by talking a little bit about your background in music, how you got started in music, and then how you started with your social media platform.
Yeah. So in my musical journey, I did not start a music major. That's probably a good first thing to say. Is I was going to go for nutrition. I started as a nutrition major at University of New Hampshire, and I chose my school based on the music programs that I would be near at the school. So I went to University of New Hampshire because I just knew about the program a little bit more, and I knew it would be easy to be in ensembles there. And that was kind of my primary decider of my school, which is interesting. It had nothing to do with nutrition. And I started taking lessons with the flute professor there, and she kind of encouraged me to change my major. It didn't take much for me to change my major. She kind of just suggested it one time, and I said yes. So I became a music major that way, and I went on to Florida State for a master's with Ava Onsler, and I graduated in 2012. So after I graduated, I moved to Austin, Texas with my now husband, and I did not know anybody here, and the first thing I did was get a job in the field I said I would never work in, which is insurance. I was terrified for some reason. I had no reason to think that, but I said like anything but insurance. It just sounded daunting. The only job I got was in insurance. So I was in that job for I think 4 years total, but full time for the first couple years here. And I was just desperate to like do flute things. So I think that's where I started being more intentional with Instagram and blogging and making videos and things like that, just to keep me practicing. So that's really where I just started leaning into Instagram, and I noticed that I really like taking photos and I like being visual. So it was a creative outlet too in a different way. It helped me think about flute playing and think about how I'm learning and practicing and engage with people. Like it felt like studio class because there's other flute players you can talk to, but also as a creative outlet in a visual way too. So that helped me deal with being in an insurance job for a really long time and not having much identity as a flute player or flute teacher. So I think it was really important for that. Yeah, that's when it started.
That's a cool story.
Cool. Yeah, for sure. And so you're very passionate about something you call compassionate self-improvement, which, I mean, that resonates with every musician on the planet, or it needs to anyway. And you use techniques in mindfulness and curiosity in the practice room. So could you tell us a little bit more about that approach and how you came to develop it?
Yeah. When I was in undergrad at UNH, I got to do a research project. I applied for a grant. My flute professor said, Jolene, you should apply for this summer grant. I just did what she told me, I guess. I'm realizing. She said, apply for this grant, and we can do a one-on-one project in the summer together. And I decided to do it on body mapping. I just had an interest in learning more about it because the first time I heard about it was at Gary Schocker's masterclass, one of the first master classes I ever went to, and he had an Alexander technique teacher there, and he has an approach of mindfulness and Alexander technique and body awareness that I had not explored at all. And the first thing he said to me while I played, I think it was playing Hindemith, and he said, can you release the back of your head? And I said, what does that mean? What? And I didn't understand really, and I figured out what he meant, and I realized like, oh, it was a huge like, whoa, everything I've been doing is way too much effort, and I suddenly sound good, and I think I figured out what is happening, what I should be doing to play. So that was enough to make me obsessed. And I did my study on body mapping because I knew it was, I bought the book of Lee Pearson on flute playing, and I learned with Vanessa Mulvey for a summer. So she had one-on-one lessons with me, and I did my study. I went to the conference. So it just exploded in that summer, and my sound changed immensely. I learned how to actually improve. I had never learned how to improve my sound really in such a clear, like thinking about my left big toe changes my sound. And I just could not get enough of like how every little thing in my whole body can make everything different, and just so many immediate improvements. So that's where my entire like philosophy on practice and teaching came from, is from there, and it still does. I'm very excited about body mapping and awareness techniques. It just still helps everything. I'm getting too excited. I forget the question already. But compassionate self-improvement too. That's where body mapping steps in. But compassionate self-improvement, I think comes from the fact that I've dipped into a very low place as well. After graduating from my master's, I had a lot more just self-doubt, like insane amounts of self-doubt, and my eyes were opened to how much I didn't know, which is very important and necessary. And I think that's a good thing in a master's degree, I guess, is now you open the book and you see, okay, here's actually what you need to do. And it took a long time to marinate with all of that, and just a lot of self-doubt, working through things on my own, but I relied on the information I had in body mapping. And my professor at FSU is Ava Amsler, and she's very much mindfulness and body awareness. So I had a lot of tools that I just needed to sort out. So in doing that, I had a way of being kinder to myself. I had some answers that I could go to, and it just required that I was curious in order to get past all of the frustration. So anytime I felt frustration, I tried to just listen to the inner voice that says, just be curious, so that you can work through things. And it helped me work through some performance anxiety and taking actual auditions and playing in front of people, because that's something that does not happen very often after grad school. I would become scared of playing because it doesn't happen as much. So yeah, that's probably where all that came from.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. I know, Erica, you've done some Alexander technique. You've had experience with that. I've done a handful of workshops. And what you just said about releasing the back of your head really resonated, because they can, like, with one little touch, and then you shift your way of thinking, and it makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
Super cool.
It does. So do you do a lot of work in that with other people, Jolene? The body mapping and that type of thing, or?
It definitely comes up in teaching a lot. I can't teach without it. I think it's helpful too online. It's being able to describe things in words, and I like have body mapping books here, and I like hold them up. They have a skeleton.
Yeah,
too,
I know, I've seen that. Yeah.
Just to share some of the things, because it's such a clear way of describing things. That's, I guess, the point of body mapping, is to be really clear.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been really helpful for teaching, and so I definitely use it in teaching. Yeah.
And this is a really serious question, but does your skeleton have a name?
No. Everybody asks though, and I let everybody give him their own name, I guess, because I can't commit. Yeah.
That's okay. I was just curious. I recently gave it away, but I did buy a small skeleton because I was so into the body mapping and Alexander stuff. But ours was named Norbert, so it clearly said he was Norbert. But anyway. So you write a blog called Practice Room Revelations, which is really awesome. And it has lots of practical tips, and you have some great videos on there, and also on your Instagram page. But I think what's also really cool is that you are so transparent through everything that you put out there. And that is not always the case with a lot of musicians that present themselves on social media or through blogs. I have a blog myself, so I've been in that same place where you have to ask yourself, do you want to put up this mask and be the professional, traditional classical musician that pretends like, you know, you're well, what's the word? I don't know, that you're perfect, or are you going to be more honest? You've obviously taken the honest route. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, was that a conscious decision, or yeah, and how do you go about coming up with your blog posts? Just talk a little bit about that. Sorry, I asked you a lot.
Okay. As far as kind of an online voice, maybe it wasn't conscious, but I am definitely, it stems from like self-doubt. Honestly, I don't feel allowed to share knowledge like I know everything, and I'm very scared of doing that. I'm very afraid of being told, no, why would you say that? So I'm very careful about protecting myself. I think I'm really afraid of bothering people. And it might be like a imposter syndrome and things like that. Even today I shared something and it still came up, like I'm scared someone's going to say this is stupid, which is weird, but it still comes up. So I think that's where my voicing comes from, and how I write things, and how I talk about things. That's just, I'm an anxious person, actually. And I feel like I'm also an emotional person, and so I go to the sensitivity in me first, and I see that in other people and think about people's feelings a lot. I'm probably a lot in that way, but I probably act from feelings first. So yeah, that might be where that's there. Yeah, it's interesting to think about that question too. As far as kind of where ideas come from for it, I started that blog in 2012, right when no, that's not right. I graduated from I don't remember what, I know it's 2020, we can't forget it's 2020. But I think I graduated from UNH in 2012, and then I was going on in 2014, doesn't matter. I truly can't remember.
It's okay. It's okay.
Graduating from undergrad, going into grad school. That's the relevant part,
Okay.
because I was to become a teaching assistant. I was offered an assistantship, and I was going to be teaching undergrad music majors, which was new. I've not taught people at that level, but it's exciting to me. And I thought it would be helpful to like articulate things in words and just be really clear about describing, like how am I improving, so I have a toolbox of ways to think about things for students. And the other part of that too, which is another weird job, I was working at a golf course, and I don't play golf. I'm not athletic at all. I was working at a golf course, and I just sat at a desk all day, and I took every piece of paper they had and just like wrote flute things. And every time I'm in a non-music world, I just like listen to music and like watch master classes and take notes and think about things. So at that job, I wrote down a lot of ideas, and I just kind of went home and turned them into blog posts. So that's when it started. But yeah, it started as a means of putting things into words, and then it sort of evolved into, I guess, more teaching things as I became a teacher. Just how am I thinking about teaching in general, and then more personal things as they came up, like performance anxiety after taking my auditions. Mm-hmm. I realized, wow, I'm so scared that I can't make a sound, and that's weird. I should probably work through that and kind of share what's happening there. So yeah, it's evolved as things have changed, but mostly it's stayed true to like what my experience is and what I've discovered as a main role.
That's really cool. And I have one follow-up kind of question then, because earlier on you said that you sometimes really worry about that somebody's going to come back at you and challenge you, or just outright say, no, you're wrong, which I know I'm on Twitter a lot, and you do have to be open to that happening. And I'm also very sensitive too. So have you had instances where people have done that, and how do you approach your response to those people?
That's a good question. I don't have a specific example. I think it's probably happened where, somebody said the opposite is true, and I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I don't think anybody has really been true. Either somebody's just really negative for no reason at all, and it's just so out there that it's almost funny. Like somebody made a comment about my fingernails being painted in a video on YouTube, and that's what they focused on, my 13 minutes of pouring my heart into how to double tongue on flute, and they noticed my nails. That's just so far out there that it's I have nothing to say to that. It's just funny. But if somebody does have like a question, or they think about something in a different way, I think it happens actually on YouTube more, where because I go into more depth, I think, in a YouTube video. So there's probably a better example of maybe support, like explaining support on flute as I will say, don't squeeze your abdomen. And a lot of easy ways to describe support is to say, squeeze the abdomen. And some people really hear that and think that. So those are two opposing ideas.
Yeah.
And I feel very confident in my thoughts on that because it's backed by what I've experienced in body mapping. So I can explain it, I think. And I think it's more of just a word choice where that comes up. So maybe it's that. I think it's, yeah.
I've got a follow-up question for this sort of thread as well. Do you find that when you're working, and I guess this would just be personal preference, but do you find like periods of time where you're more inspired than others? So you put together, let's say, 4 YouTube videos, a couple Instagram posts, when you're just feeling it just to save for later? Or is it like weekly, I do this day? Like, how did your sort of schedule work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have ideas all over the place. I have ideas in 25 different notebooks on my phone. I email myself in the middle of the night. They're everywhere that I can't even find them anymore. I start drafts of blog posts, and I'm an idea person, and I don't really go through. And I think that's an area I could work on, is sitting down and actually producing things. So I definitely have more inspired moments. And if I'm in a rhythm of actually doing the things, then it's maybe more consistent. Like making YouTube videos, I made consistent videos in a similar way, and then months and months passed and I didn't do it again. But I have a list of my next 80 video topics that I would do. I know exactly what I would do, but I haven't done it yet. So I definitely go with my feelings and my energy. And if I'm not feeling it, I didn't do anything, and it's a flaw, I guess. But yeah, that's how it happens.
Cool.
I can relate.
That's good to know. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That makes me feel, that brought me peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say all the time, I'm a pressure motivated person. It's like, I need the deadline, like right here, like, oh no, it's like,
I didn't read it, but the 4 Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin, I figured out my tendency is, I forget what it's called, but it's the one where I can't let other people down. I will let myself down all day long. But if somebody else needs something from me by a certain date, I will stay up all night doing it for them. So yeah, I just
maybe
need
it's a flute
to,
player thing. I feel,
maybe.
Sarah, that's the same. You're the same.
100%.
Yeah.
That could be an interesting research thing. Is it because, do you play the flute because you have that quality, or is it because you're a flutist that you have? I don't know.
That's interesting.
Well, I have a question about just all the hats that you wear, because you do wear quite a few hats. You're an entrepreneur, obviously a flutist, social media guru. You're a painter. I see the print behind you, which is for sale on your website, by the way. And I don't know, a blogger. But you really do seem to have a consistent and authentic voice throughout. And it really does seem like it, maybe because you do follow kind of your feeling, like you've talked about. But I was curious, have you given strategic thought to that kind of cohesiveness, or has it just sort of happened through all your projects?
Yeah, I think I've given after the fact, maybe, of like what a unifying idea is. And one of the more recent things that I'm doing is digital marketing, visual, creative, graphic design projects. And part of doing those projects is finding the unifying factors of other people and then turning it into visuals. And I have then gone back and kind of looked at myself in a different way, like how would somebody else boil me down into brand words, and like what is it? So I've been able to look at myself differently recently with that in mind. And I think it's that I try to not force myself to do anything that doesn't feel right. And I think one of the main things that I stick with is if it really feels like I'm smushing myself into a different shape to do a thing, then perhaps why am I doing it? And I've worked at different schools. Like teaching in Texas is very different. I'm not from Texas, and it's quite an intense, it can be intense. Different schools have different intensity and different expectations on teachers. And I've really struggled with anxiety there as well. And I've kind of found myself really not feeling like I'm not enough here. I'm not doing it right. I'm not fast enough. And so I just have learned to listen to that. Like, why am I judging myself that way? And so in doing all the things that I do for myself, I do them because I feel like they are my home base and they're from my most true place, including doing like visual projects too. Doing branding is now, I feel more confident in saying like I'm creative. I have the talent of creating things visually, and I've not really said that before. So I think that's new. I think it's like honoring my home base. That's a therapist phrase. Honoring your home frequency is what she would say. And I've really thought about that. I think that's kind of the main thing that keeps all the projects feeling like me, and my best self comes to them when I think about it that way.
So smart.
Yeah. I was like,
So
let that settle for a minute.
Yeah. So in one of your blog posts, you talked about being an inspiration sponge, which is really cool. It's a neat concept because we can gain inspiration from all sorts of things. But what are some of the resources that inspire you? And do you have any tips for people looking to add more musical inspiration and enjoyment to their life?
Yeah, I think that word came up when I was like trying to learn how to be better at flute playing, because I wanted more and more ideas, and I was watching a lot of master classes, and especially right now there are a lot of free online master classes, and I'm like, get my notes out because I want to learn from people. I just really like hearing ideas, especially from teachers. They can help me sound better, but they help me teach, and I want to have as many tools as possible to give students information. I think it's from teaching as well, but also for me to learn how to be better. So online master classes and YouTube videos are among my favorite things. They're just easy to digest. Other resources that I really like, a podcast is Mind Over Finger, and I would listen to that every day. It comes out every Friday. I would listen to that on my way to teach, and by Renee Paul Gauthier, who's a violinist, and she talks about mindful practice. So she interviews people and they talk about practice, and I just really like hearing about how do people think while practicing. I think it's just really interesting to think about improvement, and I love routines. I don't necessarily do routines well, but I like hearing about them. I like them in theory. So I think that was one of my favorite podcasts recently, and I like books, but I only read the first half usually. So I would say books, but that's in third place.
That's really cool. So do you have any projects that you have coming down the pike that you're really super excited about? And can you share a little bit about some of those? Or are they secret? I know sometimes it's good to keep things under wraps too. But.
There's a couple of things. There's one thing that is, I guess I'll just commit out loud, but this is one of my ideas on my list of many. I have 17 Google Docs started of making this, and it started years ago, but I've wanted to put together a workbook fundamentals routine warm-up book with just helpful thoughts, because I want to document in a clear way what will help you sound better immediately, so you're not frustrated and you can actually play long tones and improve and not want to quit, because I feel that. So I've actually put it together more and actually committed to completing it. It is actually happening. It had not started before. It was just an idea many times. So that is hopefully going to be finished now that I've said it out loud. I have to commit.
Yeah, Sarah's gonna bug you now until you get it done.
That will help. I can't let people down. So that will help. And then the other things that I'm working on a lot are for NR Media, which is NR stands for Nicole Ricardo, who is my great friend. She was another teaching assistant at Florida State with me. She's a flute player, and she is a social media marketing guru, and she teaches courses, but she started a digital marketing agency, and I am an employee of NR Media, and I get to do branding projects and graphic design. And I'm doing, I don't know if I can say who, but I'm designing the logos for people who I feel like, okay, wow. I'm designing like branding for people who I respect and admire. So we'll share what that is at some point in time, but it's really, that's exciting to be creating visually for people. I think that's keeping me inspired right now, as with not being able to go outside, I can pour my energy into just making things for other people. So those are the things I'm working on right now.
That's cool. Now, for the media stuff, is that for musicians specifically, or is it go beyond the musical field?
It's usually for creatives. I think we're kind of pushing for most creatives. We have a lot of musician clients because we are, all three of us. Taylor Rossi is our other team member. We're all flute players. So we have a music clientele, but we work with mostly creatives. Yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah.
That is really great. So you have that visual outlet that feeds that as well in your personality. And then you get to hang out with your flute buddies.
It's great. It is great.
That's so good. Okay, let's move on to this or that, where we ask you two things and you pick your favorite. We good? Okay. Netflix or Hulu?
Hulu.
What's your favorite show on Hulu?
Oh man, I really like that Hulu has The Golden Girls and Full House.
Yes.
And yeah, Hulu we downloaded Hulu and I'm like, they get me. They know what I want. Like, Netflix, I really struggle. I don't know. It's hard to find something on Netflix. So Hulu for sure.
Okay.
That's awesome. Okay, the next one is peanut butter or Nutella.
Nutella.
Yay, very sophisticated choice there. So when was the first time you had Nutella? Because like I think in the United States, it was not a big deal until not very long ago.
Yeah. I did go to Europe in high school and I feel like it was around then.
Okay.
I think it was in Europe. I don't have a good memory, but I feel like they're tied together to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I lived in Switzerland for a while and I was shocked when I went over there, like, because I was a peanut butter girl and like you could not find peanut butter anywhere and I was mortified. I was like, what am I supposed to put on my bread, you know? And then they were like, Nutella. Like, what's that? So same thing.
Erica,
what?
how did I not know you lived
I
in
didn't know
Switzerland?
that. Yeah.
Guys. Okay, whatever.
Okay, Jolene, no joke. We've known Erica for a really long time. And she just out of the blue will just tell these amazing, incredible stories. And we're
It's
like,
because I'm old.
how did you not lead with that from the jump? Whatever. I
It's
give
like,
up.
yeah, it's a running joke. There's another one.
I'm glad you
Move
didn't know, Sarah.
on.
That made me feel. It's like, does Sarah know that she lives in Switzerland?
I was like watching your face to see if you knew that.
Okay,
Sorry,
moving
Jolene.
on.
Anyway, sorry. Okay, so
Oh,
then,
I asked your question, Sarah. I'm sorry. That was
that's
very rude of
okay.
me. I'm
the
hungry.
Oh, yeah. The next question is yoga pants or blue jeans?
It's probably unpopular opinion, but I wear jeans more often. I just have more jeans. I have 2 pairs of yoga pants that are worth my time, and then 7 pairs of jeans, but they're really comfortable jeans. So I don't know, I'm defending jeans, but they're very comfortable.
Even during quarantine?
Yeah. I do wear yoga pants if they're clean, but
That's
usually
fair.
it's jeans. I just have more of them. Yeah.
I do not have a pair of yoga pants. Do you?
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know.
Me? Yes. Currently wearing them. Wore them earlier, another pair earlier today.
Oh, okay. Sarah?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it's an age thing. See, I'm old again. Old
I'm
people do not
editing
wear
this
yoga
out.
pants.
It's cut. Erica, whatever. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Moving
Oh.
on.
Moving on. Oh, it's me now. Okay. I love this question always. I had this on an interview like question once and I loved it. Okay. So if you could be, what is Michelle doing? Are you okay?
You're out of control. Jolene, we got this. Grab bag. Go.
Okay. If you could be any animal, what animal would you be and why?
Ooh, this is a hard one, but my gut says my own husky because she just takes naps. I mean, she just goes outside and she takes naps, and I do whatever she wants me to do. So I would be her.
Oh, that's so sweet. Send us a picture and we'll put it in.
Yeah, I was going to say we need a picture.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's awesome.
So the next question is, what book do you find yourself recommending a lot?
It's next to me, but Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Ooh.
I just, full disclosure, I read exactly half of it, and I still recommend it, just to be clear. I only read half of a book, but this one is really, especially for anybody, but for musicians thinking about habits and like mindset and anxiety and all kinds of things. I really liked this one a lot.
That's
Follow-up
awesome.
question. Non-musician book, fiction, nonfiction. What would you recommend to read for leisure?
I don't really read much fiction at all. It's hard to find it because I feel like most fiction are like mysteries and stuff, and I really don't like being scared or surprised at all. I'm just too anxious for it. So I read more nonfiction books that are probably predictable, but that you can learn from. I don't know, that's my leisure book. But recently I've been reading Untamed by Glennon Doyle as well. I read the first half of that. That's probably more leisurely because it's more of like a personal story, I guess. But that's a great one too.
Cool.
I think that's so funny that you read the first half. What do you do? Throw it away? You're like, oh, yeah, I'm good.
They go in my pile of books I'm currently reading, and then they stay there for a long time. I read really well on airplanes. And I've not been on a plane in a long time, but I buy books at the airport bookstore and I read on the plane. If ever I finished a book, it's because I finished it on the airplane. So, yeah.
Very good.
That's cool.
All right, last question. If you didn't play flute, what instrument do you think you would play?
I would love to play piano really well. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Good choice.
Oh, well, Jolene, it's been wonderful spending this time with you. Thank you for joining us. We've learned a lot, and we'll put links to all of the books you've recommended in the comments below so people can, as well as your website, Instagram, and all the links. So if you've got new fans,
Yay.
they can find you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Be well. We'll talk soon.